Our next speaker, it's going more in the economical direction. We have talked now applications, and our next speaker it's Marco Antonio Cascini, and it's from Italy. Should be, yeah, you can see him, and he will let us know about what's the situation in Italy for small wind. Is it a good market, and if so, to which extent, and how we can benefit most out of it? So, welcome.
Good morning, everybody. Thanks for the invitation. I don't know if you can hear me.
Yes.
So, thanks again to this invitation. I will try to, briefly summarize the opportunity that our market can show. I am a lawyer. Also a managing director of a series of companies that works in both wind, PV, and also CSP. About wind, we have a little factory here in Italy where we produce a turbine of 60 kilowatt up to 100 kilowatt. And also we have a little warehouse where we try to regenerate and revamp all turbines that has been installed in the north of Europe to new installation in a remote area here in Italy. In this brief session, I will try to share with you let me say, the possibility that our country offers, having a look to the framework and the regulatory system and market, and how is difficult to obtain authorization, and what is the market for this kind of project. So I will try to, let me try to share my screen. And let me see if you have.
Yeah, we can see it.
You can see, okay, I will start. I will try to start. Give me 2 seconds. Try to start the presentation.
Just press F5.
I don't see the.
Okay, just F5.
Here, I see. Okay. So our regulation provides some simplification for the approval of the projects, and we can say that we have 2 kinds of approval in Italy. The one is the authorization process in order to construct and to build on the turbines, and the other is the regulatory reference for the access to the incentive mechanism from our state. So I have briefly remind when we started as a country to implement the laws. The laws will be implemented for first time in 2003, and then we have tried to adjust with the association. I am in this meeting through my association, that is the National Association for Wind Energy, we call ANEP, and I am responsible for the mini wind. So once the government tried to issue new rules, ask us to have them some comments or some reference in order to better apply the rules to the practice, to the market practice. So this is the reason why you see all these update of the rules that we have. In 2003 has been inserted this new way to authorize the plants. So we have provided what we have called a sole authorization. So with just one authorization, one request of authorization, we can obtain the authorization in a time that is no more than 6 months. Then in the practice, of course, we have experienced some delay in the release of the authorization, but the laws when has been thought, is thought to let the people, the promoter, realize the plans in no more than 6 months. The Article 6 and the Article 12 of these regulation provide a simplification for some kind of plans. In 2003, the first simplification occurred for plants that not exceed 20 kilowatt for PV and 60 kilowatt for wind. So we have this, let me say, strange simplification in the first issuance of the laws, because in Italy we have a low tension with the grid that has a limit of 100 kilowatt. So we never understood very well why the simplification has affected these 60 kilowatt plants. These 60 kilowatt plants has then been increased by each region, because the legislative decree of 2003 allows the region, our state is organized in a central state, and then we have 21 regions that can and that are authorized by the state to issue laws in the competencies with the state, especially in area like the energy. So the state gives to the region the possibility to increase the value, the amount of the authorization up to 1 megawatt. So when we discuss about small wind, and I am invited in some conferences, I don't know very well what people expect for me from the mini wind. From my point of view, mini wind is that small turbines, but can be considered up to 1 megawatt. And this because of the simplicity of the authorization procedure and with the distinguishing from, let me say, industrial installation, like the multi-megawatt plants, or also onshore or offshore, and the mini wind plants that can be applied to auto-consumption use or to generate distributed generation use of this kind of turbines. Of course, turbines up to 1 megawatt are turbines more or less small, so with towers that are not higher than 70, 80 meters, and with the rotor diameter that are around 50, 60 meters of rotor diameter. Then we can slow down up to the turbines that I have in my factory, that is 30 meters high with 26 of rotor diameter for a project of 100 kilowatts. So this is the distinguish that we will have in this briefly explanation of our rules. So for the project that are more than 60 kilowatt or 1 megawatt, where the region has not approved this increase of the power, the start of the work for this kind of authorization is very, very simple, because it's just necessary to send the notification of start of business. So this has been called in 2010 DIA. Actually, after some modification of those rules, we actually call PAS, that is Procedura Abilitativa Semplificata. So it's a simplification. What we need for this kind of activities is just the ownership of the land and a connection request being accepted by the grid operator. So it's very, very simple, the possibility to install this kind of turbines, this availability of the land, and a land, of course, that does not constraint, that is not in a protected area. In Italy, of course, you will find a lot of constraint and restriction because of the historical and architectural and archaeological things that we have in our land. So the idea for the application has been then of this simplification for these rules has been set at the end of the time in 2011. So from 2003, we have in 2011 the actual regulation, and we can have this form of simplified authorization up to 60 kilowatt, or as I said before, up to 1 megawatt in more or less all the region of my country, because all the region, especially now in this moment of an energy crisis, all the region have increased the possibility to simplify the process up to 1 megawatt. So this is more or less the framework regulatory system for the approval of these mini wind plants. So it's quite simple, not so difficult. You have to find land, you have to check the wind of this land. Of course, we have historical data that is possible to receive from GSC that collect the data, and GSC is the national company that deal with the operator, the management and production of energy from renewable. So these private company that are owned by the state manage all these things and collect the data of the wind, and then put to the availability of the operator all this information in order to allow the new operator to install turbines, wind turbines, where place have wind and not in other kind of place. So we had in 2012 we started with this new form of incentive that are an incentive all-inclusive or feed-in tariff. This feed-in tariff were very simple for plants up to 60 kilowatt. And for plants that are above this limit, our state provides some register, so some closed contingent where operator can apply to request this feed-in tariff that long for 20 years with a fixed price, not indexed. This is what we have started in 2012. And as of today, we have two new decree that has been the one of 2016 that has been then extended to 2017, and after 2 years of silence, our government have issued this 2019 decree. This decree that provided originally an expiration in 2021 has been elapsed due to COVID, now due to the war. And as of today, this decree is still in place, and in a couple of weeks we will be open this registration system to access to the incentive mechanism. So it's not possible anymore to direct access to some incentive scheme. Is always necessary, however, the power of the plants to make this kind of competition. Competition that, as we have tried to say before, considering some difficulties in obtaining the authorization, especially for the multi-megawatt plants, it has remained a lot of space to take this tariff. The tariff is not, I mean, super interesting. Also, having a look now to the price of the energy is a price that is around 90 euro per megawatt. This price then has been decreased to 85.5 due to a rules inserted into the last decree. Actually, what will be the future for our system here in Italy? The future will be the energy community and the new decree that our government has promised to issue in the next months of next year. But these two new initiatives, especially having a look for the energy community, where single operator industrial can up to 1 megawatt of power share the energy under this kind of community. So I think that our country still has a lot to offer to the wind operator. Is a country that is a windy country, is a country with some difficulties with the grid, but this international situation, geopolitical situation, allow us to better think about our future, because now this industry is necessary. Again, we as a company, we do several business in different activities, PV, wind, CSP. But I think that in order to cover with 80, 100% the production of the energy in a country with just renewable, is fundamental to merge all the technologies, because wind can be a very great opportunity for mountain place or for complete remote area that has not connection. So could be managed in a very simple way. So I have tried to remain in the time and let you have the time also to make some question that maybe could be more interesting to just remind our rules and laws in my country.
Just a second, I'm trying to unmute.
Marco, what is the situation with the smaller wind turbines under 20 kilowatts? Do farmers and rural homeowners and businesses, are they allowed to install and reduce their electric bills? What are the rules for smaller wind turbines?
Under 20 kilowatts, the procedure is very simple. It is necessary just a communication to the municipality. Of course, if the building where you want to install this mini wind is protected under some archaeological or historical, because in Italy we have a lot of place of, 1,000, 1,500. So in this building will not be possible to install anything, but of course in the remote area or associated to country house or little farm, we have a lot of place where we grow chicken. And I have installed personally these 60 kilowatt turbines. I produce also, my company produces also 10 kilowatts, 20 kilowatts, and 60 and 100 kilowatt turbine. Is not, all my turbines are on lattice tower. So of course, also the 20 kilowatt turbine is a turbine with 18 meters rotor diameter and 24 meters tower. So it's not a little joke. It's always a big tower, a big turbine. So you need to respect space and blah, 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 but it's, frankly speaking, very simple. In 60, 90 days, you can have the possibility to install. And all the region, because also from an incentive point of view, we have two different incentive schemes. One is the national laws that, of course, provide, let me say, routes, especially for the multi-megawatt and industrial. And for the auto consumption, we have the region that give more or less the 80% as public grants for the realization of this kind of auto consumption activities, both for PV and mini wind. The Apulia region makes a competition for giving incentive to the little farmer or little country house to auto-produce the energy that cover 100% of the expenses. So I think could be a good idea. In our experience, the reason why I, as a lawyer, decided to acquire a license to construct the turbines, because it's not a lot of competition. It's not a lot of companies that are in my country that produce this kind of turbines. For my experience, I came from the big wind. It's simpler to manage a big wind turbine than the little one. It moves a lot. And so what I have learned is that things that you open and close, then broken more than the things that you just have closed. And so the bigger turbine that have, let me say, 14 or 20 RPM instead of mini wind that are more than 200 or 150. I mean, broke more. And the other little difficult, this is the reason why we produce on tower of 24 meters, is the geomorphological, our geomorphological situation in Italy, because we have hill, plain, mountain, and so our wind is not so regular. And if you are just on the rooftop, it's not a very good idea because it's too much trafficato, I don't remember. And so it's the wind comes from 3 meters to 15 meters it could create problem to the turbine.
So are you allowed to sell excess power to the utility if you have if you overproduce behind the meter? Do you get paid for the excess power?
It depends if you receive the public grants for the realization or not. We have some limit due to the European politic that we call the aiuti di Stato, that forbid the possibility if you get let me say, incentive that exceed the allowed parts to sell the energy to the state. Otherwise, you need to store and to auto-consume, or you have to release to the grid, but the grid will not pay to you this energy. So you will put into the grid for free. We are experienced now with this agrisolare that we call, that is for the PV, that expressly forbid, and so we can pari passu analyze it for the mini wind. They forbid to sell the energy in excess to the state. So they just pay to you, they just give to you the grant for the realization of the PV, but the PV has to be directed just for the internal consumption of the farmers and maybe for their house or the recharge of the electrical car, but is not allowed to sell to the state.
Okay, thank you.
Welcome.
Do you have any regulation in terms of number of turbines per building unit? Like in Denmark, for example, it's not allowed more than one per building, per house.
We have not, as of today, these building turbines. So our state has not regulated these activities because it's not present in our area. So it's very, very difficult to experience one turbines in the buildings. I have found maybe one or two, but in some remote area, never in the city. And I mean, we fight every day for the culture of the wind, for the integration of the wind into our idea of cities, and it's a war, a battle that we fight every day against the association. I mean, we fight against the environmental association in order to install the turbines. One of the first enemies of us has been, because today we need more energy. So the simpler way to produce energy is wind and PV, with wind turbine and PV. So now we are well accepted, but in the past has been very, very hard to let people understand and accept this kind of activities. No rules for building, to summarize.
Any more questions? Yeah, have a Galas.
I am Galas Mom from the World Wind Energy Association in Bonn, and we made a survey about the time to get approval of to build your wind turbine. The statistics show on average between 3 to 5 years, and this is one of the obstacles. How long does it take in Italy to get a permission to build your wind turbine on the building or your wind farm?
It was 60 days, right? The permission to set up the wind turbine.
Yeah, you have I mean, as I have explained before, I tried to explain before, we have two different kind of authorization. One is the simplification procedure, PAS, that is applied to 60 kilowatt and in some region up to 1 megawatt. And in this case, you have to obtain the land title, so you have to acquire the land and be the landowner, and you have to obtain the grid connection. Grid connection take around 3 months. Then you have to accept and to make the we call the piano technical, the technical plans, the project for the grid operator, project for connection. The grid operator will approve the project for connection. Then you are allowed to present the permits. Permits for this kind of turbine, if the land has not constrained, 30 days, and you can start the work if nobody say anything against the project. So these are the time: acquisition of the land, grid connection, technical plan, presentation of the PAS, 30 days for that moment. In this case, it takes all the process, takes around 4 or 5 months from the starting, from the first starting. Permits just 1 month. Is this middle permits that we call Energy Connect TICA, that is the connection to the grid, that takes a little bit longer, and is a pre-authorization that you need to have jointly with the contract. For the turbines or for the projects that exceed the 1 megawatt, then we have the sole authorization, and then we have, I mean, we have experience 6 or 7 years to obtain the authorization. You have to make environmental study, and I mean, it's a little bit more complicated than the smaller one.
How strong is the, now you mentioned that if no one complains, basically, so I imagine the neighbors, how strong is the power of the neighbors in that sense, in blocking a small turbine?
It depends. We generally, all the turbines are installed in little municipality, and we still have a place with 200 people, 300 people. So it depends a lot from where you install. I mean, sometimes the projects are blocked for very stupid things, and a little fight within a neighbor in a very little municipalities. And so you just, because, I make a stupid example, acquire the land from the enemy of the major. And so, I mean, the major will do all in its possibility to just fuck the neighbor. And so you enter into mechanisms that are not regulatory and blah, 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 but into the mind of little landowners of little municipalities. So generally, I mean, personally, I have installed 56 turbines of 1 megawatt in just 1 year and a half, the last year and a half, due to this simplification procedure, and our turbine of EWT, that is, and Lightwind. These are the 2 producers that I have used in this my last 1 year and a half experience. And if you locate good the land and you talk with the public administration, you have not a problem during the activity. This is normal. We release to those little municipalities also some little benefit with an instrument that we call the Convenzione. Is normal, not for 20 kilowatt turbine or 60 kilowatt turbine, but with turbines that up to 1 megawatt, we have realized an energy efficiency in one public park. We have realized the public park. We have made a fountain. We have donated an ambulance. I mean, in each municipality where we went, we try to create a relationship with the municipality with this instrument, and then we try to have also a benefit for the community. That is what I think we have to do in order to let the small wind and wind business into the mind of the people that can be happy to have this tower in their little municipality, because they have some benefits also personally from this installation. And if they can bring the baby to a public park, and this public park are good land, so this is a benefit for us, or going in some other, in playing or seated in front of a fountain with some this little chair with the recharge of the phone that is for free. I mean, stupid things, but that can allow the community to, I mean, in the north that you are, Denmark and this country, is 20, 30 years, 40 years that the wind business is accepted by.
We also have a lot of opposition, so it's interesting to hear that the, let's say, a little bit community power concept, it's also entering in Italy. It's interesting to know. Any more questions from?
I was just going to ask Marco, what is the typical cost of electricity for a homeowner and for a business? And for business, do you have demand separation of demand charges and electricity rates?
Yeah, we have, I mean, standard, and when I say standard, I say before 2021, the cost of energy was quite ridiculous. So also PV will not be accepted then. I mean, the little farmer or the little owner of villas does say energy cost 4 cents per kilowatt hour. It does not make any sense to install something for auto consumption. Now that the energy is more than 400 euro per megawatt, my phone rings every 5-10 minutes to say what I can do to save my farmer, to save my little industry, and because of course, actually, when I work a lot with this chicken establishment now for the production of chicken, and they generally pay around 1,500 euro per month, the energy. Actually, they are around 7,000 euro per month. The more or less energy consumption is about 200,000 kilowatts per year, so 200 megawatts. And then a little turbine of 100 kilowatts can, let me say, completely let these activities be autonomous. And for our experience, my turbines that I produce with the 5.5 meters per second can allow a production of more than 2,000 equivalent hours. So we can, it's not necessary, of course, because it's not allowed the exchange of the energy with the grid operator. So it was allowed up to 2018, then this has changed. If I produce, I have to consume. Our government does not allow anymore to sell, to give to the energy and to take back in other hours during the day. So now is necessary to convert the energy in thermal and then reconvert, or just store the energy in some batteries and then use when you need. This is what you need to do. So for the people that wants to install for auto consumption, is necessary a storage system to do not have this dialing with the grid, because otherwise you sell during the hours that you produce and then you have to reacquire. For the PV, it will be a problem, of course, because for our forecast of production, it is normal that PV will be the system that will be more installed in, I think, in all the European countries, because it's simpler for authorization point of view, for installation point of view, and the constraint and blah, blah, blah. And so the PV will move the market, and then the energy will have a value, reduced value during the daily hours. This is our forecast for Italy, and then will be higher in the moment 7 in the morning, 9, 7 in the night, 10. This will be the moment. So having the possibility to store your energy will be, of course, the future for this non-programming energy production that is wind and PV, that of course need some storage system to be efficient.
Thank you.
Anything more? No. I will have a question, but I will just write it to you by mail because it's more territorial question. So then the international audience might not be very interested in that. But otherwise, I would like to thank you for this very interesting insights you have given us. And small audience here clapping, and the digital one, I imagine, as well. And otherwise, now we will go on a break, and then we will have in 12:55, we'll have Dolte Fourquet, who will present some results from a project and give updates on the targets of the European Union, seen from an inside worker visit. So, yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for joining.
You have my data, so all the question, and it will be a pleasure to dial with you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Have a good day.